Most people wake up already losing. The alarm rings, and before their feet hit the ground, they're already reacting, checking notifications, chasing obligations, slipping straight into noise and comparison. But what if you began your day like a Roman emperor? Not with chaos, but with clarity. Not with distraction, but with depth. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world, yet he started each day not with power, but with principle. In the quiet hours of the morning, before battles, betrayals, and burdens arrived, he wrote to himself, not to inspire others, but to stay anchored to his center. While the world around him spun, he grounded himself with lines that reminded him who he was, what truly mattered, and what was within his control. Welcome to True Stoic Mindset, where we don't just talk about philosophy, we live it. Here, we transform ancient wisdom into practical rituals, so your day doesn't begin with noise, but with intention. This video is not about motivation. It's about anchoring. 10 lines. 10 principles. Each one chosen from Stoic philosophy to help you begin your day not as a victim of the world, but as the author of your actions. Each line is a return to self-command, to emotional discipline, to moral clarity. You don't need incense or a ritual. You need remembrance. A return to the calm, clear place inside you, before the day tries to pull you away from it. Let's begin. 1. You have power over your mind, not outside events. This line from Epictetus is not just a thought. It's a boundary. Every morning you wake up to a world you cannot control, people's moods, the weather, the news, the inbox, the traffic, the expectations. But the Stoics would say, before you touch the world, touch your mind. This sentence is a gate. You either walk through it, or you live outside it, exposed to everything. What does it mean to have power over your mind? It means you choose your first thought instead of letting the world choose it for you. It means you observe before you react. It means the headlines, the messages, the outside noise may knock, but you decide what enters. This is not avoidance. It's sovereignty. The modern person checks their phone and immediately loses their day to things that don't matter. The Stoic person checks their mind and takes ownership of everything that does. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You need a reminder that your peace begins with what you allow. So ask yourself right now, is your attention ruled by habit or by intention? You cannot control what will happen today, but you can control how you meet it. And that is the beginning of inner freedom. To begin each day by telling yourself, you will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful. It sounds pessimistic, but it's the most compassionate form of preparation you'll ever practice. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings not by hoping the world would be kind, but by reminding himself it often wouldn't be. Not to harden his heart, but to strengthen it. Not to grow cold, but to stay warm when the cold inevitably came. This isn't about cynicism. It's about choosing not to be surprised. If you walk into your day expecting everyone to be understanding, fair, and respectful, you set yourself up for disappointment. But if you walk into your day knowing some will judge, some will interrupt, some will speak without thinking, you're not caught off guard. You don't lose your peace because they failed to behave. You preserve it because you expected the challenge and prepared for it. A Stoic doesn't expect others to live by their principles. They expect to live by their own, even when others don't. This mindset is not negativity. It's resilience. It allows you to meet rudeness with steadiness, ingratitude with generosity, ignorance with calm. When you know what kind of world you're stepping into, you don't flinch. You meet it like Marcus did, with composure, foresight, and a quiet refusal to be disturbed by what is simply human. 3. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You had a plan. You set the intention. You woke up ready to move. Then something blocks you. Maybe it's a delay, a problem, an unexpected mess. And just like that, frustration creeps in, and momentum slips away. But this is where Stoicism shines brightest, not in comfort, but in collision. This line, often attributed to Marcus Aurelius and popularized by modern Stoics, flips frustration on its head. What you saw as the obstacle becomes the path. The thing that delayed you is now your discipline. The emotion that rose? A test of your mastery. The setback? An invitation to grow, not to stall. The Stoic doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What can I do with this?" And that shift, just that small internal pivot, is everything. When something interrupts your morning, your energy, your expectation, pause. Let the frustration rise, then step back and look it in the eye. Ask, "Can I use this? Can I grow through this? Can I turn this resistance into strength?" Because what stands in your way today might just be the very thing that forges your mind into something unshakable. Not despite the obstacle, but because of it. 4. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed. Marcus Aurelius wrote this to himself, not as a philosopher preaching to the masses, but as a man wrestling with his own comfort. He too didn't want to rise. He too felt the pull of warmth, of rest, of delay. But he reminded himself, "You were born not to lie in bed, but to act, to serve, to live your nature. This is not about grinding. It's about remembering. You weren't made to sleep through life, not in body, not in mind. Each morning that you rise with resistance is not a failure. It's an opportunity to meet that resistance with reason. The bed feels good. The blanket is warm. But what feels good now often costs more later. And what feels hard now often strengthens you later." The Stoics didn't chase motivation. They practiced meaning. They asked, "Why am I alive? What is today for? Who do I become by getting up when I said I would?" Discipline doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Get up." You don't need to want to. You just need to begin. Because the act of rising, physically, mentally, morally, is not just the start of your day. It is the statement of your direction. 5. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. We live in an age obsessed with image, with posting virtue instead of practicing it, with debating values instead of embodying them. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, had no time for the performance of morality. He had battles to face, duties to uphold, a soul to protect. So he wrote, perhaps to silence his own mind's temptation to philosophize too much, "Stop talking, start living." It's easy to scroll, read, share quotes, comment on character. It's harder, but far more powerful, to live those values in silence when no one is watching. This line is a direct challenge to your morning. You can waste the early hours trying to craft the perfect routine, find the ideal habit, or argue with yourself about what you should be doing. Or you can simply begin. What does the good version of you do this morning? He doesn't need to explain. He moves. He honors his time. He respects his principles. He acts. The Stoic way is not loud. It is deliberate. When you start the day with this question, not, "What should I become?" but, "How can I live it now?" you cut through confusion with action. You don't need to define goodness today. You just need to choose it. 6. Don't hanker after what you don't have. It starts subtly. You wake up and within seconds the mind begins to wander, not into gratitude, but into comparison. You think of what you don't have, what you're still chasing, what they already achieved, what's still missing. This is the first theft of the morning, when longing replaces presence. Marcus Aurelius warned against this mental drift. Not because ambition is wrong, but because desire unchecked becomes discontent. It removes you from the richness of what is and traps you in what isn't. The Stoics weren't anti-progress. They were anti-attachment to what lies beyond control. They didn't say, "Don't grow." They said, "Grow from where you are, not from what you envy." When you start your day chasing what's missing, you miss what's already in your hands: breath, time, agency, peace. What if you began instead with a mental inventory? Not of your goals, but of your gains. Not of your lack, but of your leverage. Not of what's out there, but what's in here. Let others wake up reaching. You wake up remembering. Because once you start from abundance, you're no longer grasping, you're building. 7. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Some mornings begin not with peace, but with the aftertaste of resentment. A conversation gone wrong. A betrayal. A wound reopened by memory. And quietly your mind starts planning its defense, its comeback, its cold response, its prove them wrong energy. But Marcus Aurelius cuts through the temptation with this: the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Let that echo. Not silence. Not retaliation. But refusal to become what hurt you. You don't have to mimic the coldness of the person who ignored you. You don't need the bitterness of the one who disrespected you. You don't have to lower your voice to match their noise. This line is an invitation to rise instead of react. Stoicism doesn't teach you to suppress anger. It teaches you to stand above it, to watch it rise, acknowledge its fire, and then choose a higher response. Because anyone can strike back. But to remain calm, collected, and in character when provoked? That is strength. You win not by defeating others, but by staying undefeated by their actions. This morning, choose not to mirror hostility. Choose to be the proof that peace is still possible, even when you're tested. 8. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Every morning you are given a kind of power. The power to decide what you'll tolerate, what you'll engage in, what you'll speak into the world. And with that power comes responsibility, especially in the smallest of choices. This line from Marcus Aurelius isn't just a moral compass. It's a filter. Before you act, ask, is this right? Before you speak, ask, is this true? Not convenient. Not popular. Not pleasing. But right. And true. It's tempting to twist facts to defend yourself. To cut corners to save time. To say something clever that gets a laugh but stings someone else. To nod along when you disagree. To stay silent when you should speak. But each of these is a step away from yourself. The Stoic doesn't just avoid wrongdoing. They refuse to stain their soul with even the smallest departure from principle. This morning, as you move through the world, texting, talking, deciding, carry this line like a lens. Not to be perfect, but to be precise. Because when your actions align with what's right, and your words align with what's true, you stop performing. You start living. And that integrity becomes your calm, your compass, your strength. 9. Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. You did the right thing, but they misunderstood. You spoke honestly, but they took offense. You showed up with integrity, but no one noticed. And part of you wonders, was it worth it? Marcus Aurelius gives the answer with a clarity only the Stoics could deliver. Yes. It was. And it always will be. Because the outcome isn't your measure. The act itself is. This line is a reminder that doing the right thing isn't about reward. It's not about applause, recognition, or reciprocation. It's about consistency with your own inner compass. You act rightly, not because it's easy, Not because it's seen, but because it's you. The modern mind is conditioned to look for feedback, likes, comments, responses, results. But the Stoic mind is trained to be free from all of that. What if your action is never acknowledged? What if no one thanks you? What if they misread you? Do it anyway. Because the moment you require approval, you've surrendered something sacred, your sovereignty. Let others measure their lives by popularity. You measure yours by principle. When you begin your day with this lens, you stop looking over your shoulder. You walk your path, straight and quiet. And the rest? It doesn't matter. 10. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Most people get it backwards. They hold others to impossible standards, demanding perfect words, perfect timing, perfect behavior. And yet, they let themselves off the hook. Excuses, exceptions, delays, justifications. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, flipped this dynamic entirely. He didn't ask the world to behave. He asked himself to. This is the essence of Stoic discipline. Expect less from others, expect more from yourself. When someone disappoints you today, pause. Were your expectations fair? Are you holding them to standards you struggle to meet? And when you catch yourself making excuses, I'll do it later, I didn't feel like it. Pause again. Would you accept that same reasoning from someone else? This line isn't about harshness. It's about balance. Grace for others. Grit for yourself. It means giving people space to be flawed without letting yourself drift into softness. It means forgiving others quickly, and holding your own habits accountable without delay. This is how leaders rise. Not by commanding others, but by mastering themselves. This morning, lead yourself first. Not with shame. Not with pride. But with quiet strength that needs no witness. Anchor your morning, reclaim your day. You don't need to control the day. You only need to begin it from the right place. That place isn't in your phone. It isn't in your calendar. It isn't in the expectations of others. It's in the mind that wakes with stillness. The heart that remembers its values. The soul that refuses to be rushed into noise. The Stoics knew, how you start the day shapes how you carry it. A mind anchored in principle is not easily moved by pressure. A spirit aligned with virtue doesn't get lost in distraction. These 10 lines aren't mantras. They're mirrors. They show you what you're capable of: clarity, courage, restraint, compassion, discipline. You don't need to remember them all. Just one. One that holds you. One that grounds you. One that brings you back to yourself when the world pulls you away. Let that be your anchor. And if this message resonates, if this is the kind of day you want to live, not just once but every day, subscribe to True Stoic Mindset. Because the world will keep spinning. But you're learning to stand still at the center of it.